I noticed when you're asking about Caitlin a lot, you bring up other rookies as well.
No league's ever about one player. That player could get hurt or whatever. So I think it's just to give recognition that in sports, people watch for compelling content and rivalries. And you can't do that alone as one person.
This isn't just another sports story. This is a chilling warning shot about how arrogance, short-sighted leadership, and a series of unforgivable mistakes can tank an entire empire before it even had the chance to truly rise. The WNBA held the golden ticket in its hands, a generational star, Caitlin Clark, who was not only brilliant on the hardwood but a walking, talking cultural phenomenon. She pulled millions of fresh eyes into women's basketball almost overnight. For a league that had spent nearly 3 decades clawing for mainstream attention, this was supposed to be their crowning moment, their breakthrough, their ultimate validation. And yet, instead of embracing her as the savior who could rewrite the sport's future, they treated her as disposable. In the process, they committed a blunder so massive it may cast a shadow over the league for decades to come. What began as a fairy tale twisted into an all-out war. Caitlin Clark is taking her revenge, not by shouting into microphones or venting on social media, but with something far more devastating: leverage. She's exposing the WNBA's utter incompetence in the only place that truly matters, the boardroom. The best part? The Sharks are already circling. Rival leagues, billionaire investors, even celebrities far removed from sports, all recognize what the WNBA stubbornly refuses to admit: Caitlin Clark is bigger than the league itself. So, how did everything unravel? How did the WNBA mishandle the most electrifying athlete in years so badly that her rookie and sophomore seasons became less about triumph and more about betrayal? Stick with me, because once you see the numbers, the disrespect, and the offers already rolling in from outside the league, you'll realize this wasn't simple mismanagement. This was absolute malpractice.
Never seen a company fumble the bag so hard like the WNBA fumbled Caitlin Clark. It sucks that so much of it was riddled with so much drama and so much negativity.
This was the kind of catastrophic blunder that rewrites history books. When Clark first stormed onto the national stage, it didn't feel like a typical top draft pick arriving. It felt like a cultural turning point. From the moment she absolutely torched defenses in college, Clark wasn't just breaking records. She was redefining what women's sports could be in America. Each game became an event. Ratings skyrocketed. Highlights spread like wildfire across every corner of the internet. Kids across the country were jacking up logo-range threes on playgrounds, mimicking her unmistakable style. She was more than an athlete. She was a cultural symbol. By the time draft night arrived, her story was already larger than life. This wasn't just the WNBA selecting another talented guard. This was the coronation the league had been waiting for. Lightning in a bottle. A single player strong enough to drag an entire sport into the mainstream. The impact was immediate. Tickets for Indiana Fever games vanished in hours. Resale prices tripled overnight. Entire arenas brimmed with fans, many of them attending their first ever WNBA contests simply because Caitlin Clark was there. She was instant box office. Ratings followed suit, with broadcasts featuring her blowing past anything the league had seen before. Attendance records crumbled. Merchandise sales exploded off the shelves. Even casual sports fans who hadn't cared about the WNBA in years were suddenly glued to Clark's every move. In a matter of months, she had done what 2 decades of slogans, rebrands, and marketing campaigns had failed to accomplish. She made the WNBA relevant. It should have been the start of a golden age. But what looked like a dream from the outside quickly soured on the inside. Because while Caitlin Clark delivered everything the league could have dreamed of, the WNBA repaid her with the kind of disrespect that will haunt them forever.
Here in the W, we pride ourselves on having a super welcoming,
Don't get stoned!
calm, low-stakes environment,
Boston little hoist.
She hit it!
where communication is highly valued.
Oh, it's getting chippy.
Collaboration is always encouraged.
Oh, what a pick!
We are devoted to working extra hard. We've been delivering astounding results since 1997.
Back to back.
Because this is a place where basketball matters.
Beautiful pass and a good catch and finish. Big time!
And if you love
Oh, Enrique!
real
Thomas with the spin!
basketball,
Unforgettable finish!
welcome to the W.
Let's talk numbers, because they make the
Let's talk numbers because they make the betrayal undeniably obvious. Her Indiana Fever didn't just improve attendance. They absolutely obliterated history. By the end of the season, the Fever had drawn over 200,000 fans through the turnstiles. That's not just impressive. It's a league-altering number, higher than any other team had ever managed. 200,000 butts in seats. That's not growth. That's a revolution. And it didn't stop there. National broadcast viewership surged by 21%. Think about that. For a league that had literally begged for attention for decades, this wasn't incremental progress. It was survival. Clark was a walking economic engine. Every time she laced up, arenas swelled, merchandise flew off shelves, and television numbers soared. She wasn't just an athlete. She was the heartbeat of the entire league. And all this came from a rookie, barely scratching the surface of her prime. Now, stop for a second and think about how long the WNBA has been searching for this moment. For nearly 30 years, they tried every trick in the book, slogans, rebrands, partnerships, none of it worked. Then Caitlin Clark arrived, and suddenly the impossible became reality. She was the difference between a league fighting for oxygen and a league finally thriving. She was the goose laying golden eggs every single night. And yet, instead of treating her as the treasure she was, the league decided to insult her in the worst way possible, on her paycheck.
They try so long to get respect for women's basketball, and then they treat it like a junior high school girl's locker room. Junior high school girl antics on the court. Instead of playing the game, they gotta be drama because they're jealous. Instead of letting their skills speak for themselves, they gotta be drama because they're jealous.
Let's lay it bare. Clark's rookie contract was 4 years long, totaling just $338,000. Break it down, and that's about $85,000 a year. $85,000. That's less than some middle managers make at a tech startup. Less than many assistant coaches in men's basketball pocket. And it's supposed to be the salary for the one woman literally keeping the league afloat. It was an insult written in black and white. Now, compare it to the NBA. A #1 overall draft pick across the hall signs a rookie deal worth around $55 million over 4 years. That's not a typo. $55 million versus $338,000. That's not just a gap. It's a canyon. Clark wasn't being underpaid. She was being devalued. Do the math, and she made 162 times less than her male counterpart. Not 10% less, not half as much, but 162 times less. That isn't just a wage gap. It's a declaration. It told the world, we don't value her. And once that disrespect went public, the ripple effect was brutal. Because when a league devalues its own star, it signals something far worse. It tells opponents, she's fair game. She isn't special. She isn't protected. She's just another rookie. And that's when the disrespect leapt off the contract page and onto the court.
We have heard nothing from the WNBA, absolutely nothing.
Brittany Griner elbowing Caitlin Clark in a crazy way and then calling her a trash white girl.
And Brittany Griner has not commented, which I find significant. I've watched that video countless times, and it sure looks like Brittany Griner says, white girl.
For Caitlin Clark, that end came on September 5th, 2025. The news hit like a bombshell. She was ruled out for the rest of the season with a right groin injury. Headlines tried to frame it as unfortunate bad luck, a tragic twist of fate. But let's not sugarcoat it. This wasn't random chance. This wasn't bad luck. This was the bill coming due. This was months of negligence finally cashing in. The WNBA's failure to protect Caitlin Clark had just cost them everything. Think back to what Caitlin Clark endured in her first 2 seasons, the hip checks delivered with extra intent. The sharp elbows in traffic, the hard shoves when she was already in the air. And the subtle but dangerous off-ball shots to her ribs and hips. Every game, the punishment piled up. And every game, the referees looked the other way while league executives hid behind silence. Her body finally broke. Not because she was fragile, not because she couldn't handle the competition, but because the very system built to protect her never did its job. This injury wasn't bad luck. It was the inevitable result of negligence. And in that moment, the WNBA didn't just lose its brightest star. They revealed to the world that they were incapable of protecting the one person who had saved them from irrelevance.
Higher television ratings, higher attendance figures. Ladies and gentlemen, that doesn't come courtesy of a league. It comes courtesy of the players that play in the league. And in her case, she was the most popular, which means she could have helped your bottom line, which means you should have seen that from day one and maximized it. But you didn't do it.
But that was only the appetizer. The main course came from an unlikely source, someone entirely outside the traditional basketball machine, a cultural icon who had built an empire on disruption. Just when it seemed like the story couldn't get worse for the WNBA, it did. Because Ice Cube entered the conversation, and his offer made the league's treatment of Clark look like a cruel joke. At first, people dismissed the whispers. Cube's Big 3 league paying Caitlin Clark millions for a short-term deal? It sounded like tabloid fantasy. Some fans thought it was just posturing, a publicity stunt. But then the numbers came out, and they were undeniable. The official offer was $15 million. Not for 4 years. Not for 40 games. Not for grinding out an entire WNBA season. No, $15 million for one 10-week stretch of basketball. Pause and let that sink in. The WNBA locked Clark into a 4-year rookie contract worth just $338,000 total, barely $85,000 per year. Cube walked in and said, "How about $15 million for 10 weeks? That's not a negotiation. That's a public shaming. That's someone standing on the rooftop with a bullhorn yelling to the world, the WNBA has no clue what its most valuable asset is worth." This wasn't just about Clark's bank account. It was about optics. The Big 3 didn't just outbid the WNBA. They utterly exposed it. They proved that a rapper-turned-businessman understood Caitlin Clark's market value better than the very league built on her shoulders. That $15 million figure didn't just dwarf her paycheck. It absolutely obliterated it. And overnight, the narrative flipped. The WNBA wasn't protecting Clark. They weren't empowering her. They were undercutting her. And now, the receipts were out in the open for everyone to see. This wasn't a simple contract discrepancy. This was revenge. Revenge written in dollar signs. Revenge on a league that thought they could get away with paying pennies while raking in gold from her image. And suddenly, the power dynamic shifted forever. Caitlin Clark didn't need the WNBA anymore. But the WNBA? They couldn't survive without her.
And everybody talk about other WNBA players not being appreciated. Nobody insulted them. Nobody dismissed their contribution. We were simply saying, despite the contributions for years and years and years, a lot of people didn't care. Fair or not? I tell Caitlin.
For months, league executives had operated under a dangerous illusion. They thought Clark was locked in, trapped, with nowhere to go. They figured they could take her for granted because what else could she possibly do? Then Ice Cube dropped the $15 million bombshell, and everything changed. That number wasn't just about money. It was a declaration of independence. It validated everything fans had believed since day one. Caitlin Clark's true worth dwarfed the WNBA's imagination. She wasn't a six-figure player. She wasn't even a seven-figure player. She was an eight-figure superstar. And the most humiliating part? She had gotten there without ever asking for their approval. Think about the symbolism. The WNBA marketed Clark as the face of its future, but never gave her the treatment that came with it. Cube didn't just pay her. He validated her. He told the world, "You're not crazy for believing this woman is worth everything." He confirmed that the WNBA had no clue how to handle its golden goose. And that validation, that external stamp of respect, is where the real revenge begins. Because the damage isn't whether Clark accepts the contract tomorrow. The damage is that the offer exists. It hangs over the WNBA like a storm cloud. Every press conference, every boardroom meeting, every sponsor call, there's that number, $15 million. It's in the room whether Kathy Engelbert likes it or not. And with that single move, Caitlin Clark gained something no WNBA player had ever truly held before: leverage. Leverage to demand protection. Leverage to demand real respect. Leverage to negotiate not just her salary, but her role in shaping the very future of women's basketball. And that's the league's nightmare. Because once a player realizes she doesn't need the institution anymore, the institution loses control. The WNBA can't put Caitlin Clark back in the box. Not after Cube broadcasted her true worth through a megaphone. The league thought it owned Caitlin Clark. The truth? She now owns the future of the sport. This was never just about basketball. It was about vision, about respect, about a league that held the keys to its own salvation and somehow dropped them straight into the sewer. Clark walked in as a once-in-a-generation gift. Ratings magnet, attendance surge, jersey selling machine. She gave them everything. And what did she get in return? A rookie deal that insulted her. Silence as refs swallowed whistles. Indifference when opponents turned games into free-for-all wrestling matches. And absolute nothing when accusations of ugly racial slurs echoed across the court. They didn't just undervalue her. They betrayed her. Now comes the price. Caitlin Clark's revenge isn't about throwing shade in interviews. It isn't about cryptic tweets. It isn't even about dominating the stat sheet. Her revenge is leverage. It's rival leagues lining up with offers of millions, ownership stakes, and the one thing the WNBA never gave her: respect. Ice Cube's $15 million bombshell didn't just shake the market. It flipped the balance of power. The WNBA thought Clark needed them. The truth is, they needed her. And now, for the first time, a single player controls the fate of an entire league. So, the question is simple. When her contract ends, does Caitlin Clark stay loyal to the institution that disrespected her, or does she walk away, taking her millions of fans, her economic clout, and her cultural weight somewhere else? The WNBA had its chance. They had their savior. They had the golden moment every struggling league dreams about, and they fumbled it. Caitlin Clark doesn't need the WNBA to cement her legacy, but the WNBA? They may have just lost their future.